So welcome, my name is Paul Smyers. Perhaps I sent you an email and a link to this video here. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about absentee ownership. As a professional realtor in Southwest Virginia, one of the things that we do is we research online the different properties around, and I do a lot of scouting. I drive like literally hundreds of miles or thousands of miles a year, and I look around at various properties. And I see a lot of open land, and I look online and I see, wow, there's a lot of land out there and nothing's being done with it. And then I find across there's some people who are absentee owners, because online you can find the records nowadays, and I sometimes see a very old building or old house or farm and so on, and it's kind of run down, and I look it up and I found out that the owner is out of state or something. So in case I sent you an email to someone who happens to be an absentee owner, you saw it on Craigslist and I sent you an email, I want to talk a little bit about being an absentee owner, because first of all, there's a lot of times that people have land that their grandparents left them or something, and they don't even know that they own it, or maybe they do kind of know that they own it, but they just isn't part of their awareness because they're doing other things in their life. And meanwhile, this land is sitting there that they're really not using, and there's taxes on it and upkeep and so on. And I see properties, for example, that maybe the owner hasn't been down there for like 10 years, and the poor thing is just run down and nobody's taking care of it. And there might be someone eager to buy that piece and say, man, I just love to live there. I know what to do. I can fix up that house, or I can tear down that barn or something like that. So I try to connect people who are out of town, out of state, and own property in Virginia. And that may be, again, you may have gotten an email from me, and I'm just going to chat with you a little bit about it. Because, first of all, there's a lot of reasons that some people want to hold on to their land. I'm not trying to push anybody to try to sell their land. It's not like that. There's a lot of good reasons that somebody might hold land for the family for a long time. For example, maybe they want to leave it for their children or grandchildren, or retire or something like that. So there's good reasons. Or maybe recreation land that they use once in a while or whatever. So there's good reasons to hold on to land. But then there's times when it just becomes a real burden, and it's almost like people, if you don't know that you have money in the bank, so to speak, maybe there's land tracts out here in this part of the country that I see online. They're big. They're like 50, 60, 100, 200 acres. Big piece of land. And there might be really great trees on that land, but someone would be willing to pay you thousands of dollars to harvest those trees, but you don't even know about it. And so I'm just trying to address that and try to do a little bit of communication to people who might have gotten an email from me. And for some people who have not gotten an email from me and they just want to know a little bit about what's happening with absentee owners, yeah, there's a lot of land. If you drive around Virginia, it's amazing. You can drive for miles and miles and miles and not see another sign except for maybe a little bit of a road sign or something. So what's going on with all that land? And that's one of the reasons I specialize in land and rural property, because what's happening right now, folks, is that a lot of people want to get out of the city. There's a lot of really good reasons, even before this whole COVID thing happened. There's a lot of really good reasons to get out of a congested area. There's a lot of safety. It's calmer. If you have a hurricane, for example, and you have, like, everybody wants to get out of town, you're just stuck there. You're going to be in a traffic jam for 20 miles. But if you have a place in the country, even if it's just a place where you can park a trailer for a while or a few days, and then the hurricane comes up the coast or the East Coast or something, you'd say, hey, you know, I'm seeing you. I'm going to my country home for like a couple of weeks. And so I know that there's a trend that way, and there's a lot of young people these days, my son included, my older son and his wife, they like natural gardening and organic gardening, and they want to have a back to the land kind of a feeling. And my younger son really loves hiking, and he just loves being outdoors and sleeping in tents and all that. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here in Virginia for that. There's the Appalachian Trail runs through Virginia. There's the Blue Ridge Parkway. There's lots and lots of other kinds of trails, and logging roads and gravel roads, and you just turn around, you go around one corner, and next thing you know, the view is just beautiful this way. And everywhere I go, I have to admit that one reason I live in Virginia is it's just beautiful everywhere I go from where I live. And I've lived in some pretty bad places. I lived up near the congested Manhattan area for a while, in Long Island, in that area. It's very congested there. It's not very much fun. So when I see these properties on the county information system and they're vacant, I start thinking that, you know, not everybody needs to sell their land. And again, I'm not trying to tell people, hey, you got to sell your land and I want to be your rep. You may have a need to sell the land and you just don't know how to go about it, or it's just too much encumbrance or something like that. You need the help of a professional who might be able to cash that in. There's things you can do with land. If you have a large parcel, you can subdivide it. Now, there are a lot of regulations, and it very depends on every town, whatever, about the rules and regulations about subdividing. But, for example, if you have a huge piece of land, the town is not going to give you too much of a hassle if you want to take 100 acres and make it 50. That's a pretty big chunk of land. There are areas where they don't want you to have much more than like a smaller lot than 4 acres or 2 acres, because if you want to live in the country, you don't want just someone right next to you every, 50 feet away or 100 feet away. So the trend in the countryside is to have some space around you, and there's a certain natural barriers that come from having trees or other features on the land, so that you can build a home on a piece of land that has, you might have 4 or 5 acres, and some of the land is just wooded and really maybe not be very buildable, but at least there's a couple of places on the land that there's some really great building sites, so you have some insulation. So I'm a very big fan of having larger parcels. Frankly, I wish it was 10 acres because I want to preserve the farmland. There's a lot of places in the world that farming happens, but they're not these huge farms that we have in our country today. There's massive, massive farms. There was a time in America where there were loads and loads and loads of farms. You almost had to have a few cows or chickens or pigs just to survive, especially in a place like Virginia. So the trend for people nowadays is to homestead, and they're looking for pieces of land that are useful and have privacy and so on. So a piece of land that you might own and you live in another state, it might be worth more than you think. And so you get someone like me come along and I can help you figure out, like, okay, today's market, I drive around hundreds of thousands or thousands of miles all over the area. Say, okay, I know I can find out what has sold recently in that area and approximately the price of acres and so on. Now, just to give you a really, really, really ballpark, rough figure about land. If you want to buy like 100 acres of land and it's all wooded and it maybe has some road access, so it's not like isolated, but it's wooded and it's useful, but it's just not prepped in any way. You might get a price of a few $1,000s an acre, and I think I came across one time. It was a pretty good deal, actually. It ended up being like close to only $2,000 an acre. An acre is a pretty big piece of land. If you in 100 acres, you can find a whole lot of building sites. I'm sure, unless it's really crazy kind of land. But in Virginia, that's a pretty big chunk of land. So you can get some good deals, but then of course you buy in quantity, you pay in quantity, and it's a bigger chunk up front. So it's harder to find these really, really nice small pieces. And by the way, anyone out of town, if I sent you an email, if you have a small lot, it may be run down in your opinion, and if it's 5 acres, 3 acres, something fairly small, they're in high demand. You know, there are mobile home and modular companies that are looking for good parcels like that. They say, hey, you know, we sell homes and we build these special kind of modular homes, but we need some place to put them. And our customers come in and say, hey, I'm happy to buy a house from you, but I need a place to put it. So there's a high interest in buildable lots, small little lots, little homestead kind of places that have a little place for a garden. And then you get people who are interested in some larger parcels. They want to go hunting or something, and they don't care if they got to drive up a four-wheeler up there. And as long as there's some kind of old gravel road and or some old logging trail, they don't mind. So it all depends on what you're looking for. But again, there's a lot of recreation out here, and there are hunters looking for big pieces of land. And there are people who want to preserve land. There's also state opportunities sometimes with conservation easements. That's another question I'll maybe address in another video. But the states in some areas or some state has left the land to the state. Basically, they left it in as a state as a conservation easement. So they got a chunk of money from the state, and they could live happily ever after or wherever nearby, and that piece of land never gets built on. And it's good to have that kind of land out there. It really is. And frankly, a recent sale I had, for example, they wanted some recreation land. They liked the fishing and everything, and I found them a place that had a buildable lot, and they were just going to put a trailer there, but it had already a septic and a well there, and they were like just a mile from a great trout stream and another mile from a big national forest with trails. So there's opportunities in the countryside. It's a big, huge area. And again, people who have the land, they might be absentee. This is who I'm trying to talk to at this particular video, is if you have some land and you're not doing anything with it right now, consider selling it, because it's a really, really good time. And there's a really high motivation for people to move out of the country, and the people who already live here be happy sometimes to get even more land and go hunting or something. So thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you in some of the other videos. Please explore this YouTube site. And I have another website called VirginiaLandowners.com, and there's some information there and some pictures. But there's a lot of stuff online you can find without me providing stuff. But the Shenandoah Valley is an absolutely gorgeous area. There's tons of recreation around here, and there's a lot of recreation land as well. So hope to see you in some of the other videos. Please like and share, and I have a email address and a phone number here listed in case you want to contact me. So thanks again.